We spend one third of our lives in sleep, but yet not many of us care to pay attention to this aspect of our lives. While researching dreams and practicing some dream work myself, I understood that dreams serve as a gateway to understanding myself, solving problems, and connecting to my soul. In order for you to understand the world of dreams, I want you to look at the psyche as if it were to be split into two different modes of thinking. The first mode will be the conscious mind, and the second mode will be the unconscious mind. I want you to understand that these two modes or these two minds are actually two sides of the same coin. They both are part of your psyche. And so the first aspect that we will go over will be the conscious mind. The conscious mind is the mind that you embody right now. It is the objective part of you that observes what is happening and makes judgments based on your goals. Your conscious mind is what filters your experiences and decides what is expressed and what is repressed. The conscious mind is the driver of attention when awake, and it puts its focus on what it deems relevant. Nowadays, it is very hard to know what information is relevant to us. With our brains being bombarded by an infinite number of stimuli, our conscious mind is constantly getting trapped in unimportant things. We have to go and pick up the kids, finish the assignment for school, remember to eat healthily, and also stay caught up in our social lives. It's a constant struggle of movement left and right, and we often feel like adding another thing onto our plate will just throw our lives into chaos. Our conscious mind is often pushed to its limits, picking out the information it thinks is relevant to our goals and making sure to block out whatever isn't important. It's a pretty useful aspect of our psyche, and it represents the order that we all seek to keep in our lives. It operates logically and makes sure to keep us surviving in this world through paying our bills, seeking a partner, and climbing the social ladder. This aspect of the psyche is what our egos usually embody. You know, when you think of yourself, you often define yourself through your job, your looks, your status, and your outer accomplishments. The conscious mind values efficiency, yet there is a problem if left unattended. Efficiency can become closed-mindedness. We might seek to accomplish our goals over anything else and forget about the things that matter, the people we love, and even our own mental health. Instead of seeing these internal aspects of ourselves as complementary and necessary for our overall life satisfaction, we see them as distractions from our goals. We end up pushing aside our internal needs to meet the status quo. But there is one great opportunity that is granted to us every night, the opportunity for this logical, egotistical side of your mind to shut off. And that is sleep. When you sleep, the unconscious mind takes over, and that's when we start to see the real magic happen. The unconscious mind is everything the conscious mind is not. It is limitless, chaotic, and illogical. It is the hidden part of you that connects you not only to your past memories, but also contains repressed emotions, neglected feelings, and unknown information. And that is just your personal unconscious, which is a small portion of the unconscious. Going deeper into your psyche, one encounters the collective unconscious, which is what connects you to everyone else in the world. This deep aspect of yourself is what holds the archetypes and collective experiences of humankind. Many of our myths and religious symbols are produced from the psychic reservoir, as this is the source of the patterns of instinctual behavior. In our dreams, we are able to observe the workings of the unconscious quite vividly, and through studying dreams, we are able to study the soul. Dreams appear quite bizarre at first glance. They appear to have illogical ordering of events, immoral implications, and you see things in them that you just don't get to see in normal day-to-day consciousness. One of the reasons that the unconscious is not discussed so often is because we are all so used to embodying the conscious mind that when we start drawing our attention towards the unconscious, we feel like we are in an unknown place, and it just doesn't make any sense. This reflects the current sentiment that many scientists and people in general have towards the unconscious. People look at dream content, and because they don't understand it, they label it as random neuronal firings of the brain. But as Jordan Peterson himself has said, this claim is just absurd.
You know, there are people who have claimed that dreams are merely the consequence of random neuronal firing, which is a theory I think is absolutely absurd because there's nothing random about dreams. You know, they're very, very structured and very, very complex, and they're not like snow on a television screen or static on a radio. Like, those things are complicated. And then also I've seen so often that people have very coherent dreams that have a perfect narrative structure. You know, they're fully developed in some sense. And so that just doesn't, that theory just doesn't go anywhere with me. I just can't see that as useful at all.
Dreams have a structure within them that was created outside of our own conscious control. Founder of analytical psychology, Carl Jung, identified this structure of dreams, and he labeled them as follows. There is an exposition, a development, a culmination, and a lysis or a conclusion. This structure is pretty similar to the structure that we all use for storytelling. Through my own study of dreams, I have found that there are three important aspects that point towards the direction of the discovery of the soul. Now we will begin to unravel the soul with the first aspect of the unconscious, Autonomy. When looking into dreams, we can see that the unconscious has its own agenda. It operates independently. When comparing the attitudes of the conscious mind versus that of the unconscious in dreams, we can see that the unconscious attitude is not always the same as the conscious attitude. This particular phenomenon is what Carl Jung called the autonomy of the unconscious. Carl Jung explains, the dream not only fails to obey our will, but very often stand in flagrant opposition to our conscious intentions. The opposition need not always be so marked. Sometimes the dream deviates only a little from the conscious attitude and introduces only slight modifications. Dreams are a force of nature within themselves. Nobody could ever say that they control their dreams, not even the lucid dreamer. Robert Wagner, an author and expert on lucid dreaming, has more to say about this.
So a key point in all of my writings is the lucid dreamer does not control the dream. And oftentimes you'll hear them talking about lucid dreaming, and in a very shorthand way, oh yeah, and of course you control the dream. In any lucid dream, you can see that you don't control it. For example, if you become lucidly aware and fly through the wall, and then on the other side of the wall is a white horse and a castle, who created that? No one did. You didn't control it, you just flew through the wall.
In seeing this, we can understand quite clearly that the unconscious has its own will separate from that of the conscious mind. So one would then be led to question, what purpose does the unconscious serve? To understand this purpose, we can look at Carl Jung and what he came up with in terms of what the purpose of dreams were. He labeled dreams to be fantasia. And many people look at dreams and label them in the same manner as fantasy. And now there is some truth in regarding dreams as fantasy, but it's an overlooked truth, because once we look at the origin of the word fantasy, we discover a lot more that is left to tell. Robert A. Johnson speaks about the psychological function of imagination, and he says that the psychological function of our capacity for fantasy is to make visible the otherwise invisible dynamics of the unconscious psyche. We underestimate the importance of fantasy in our everyday lives. We think we make things up in our heads, when in reality our imagination is a true link to the invisible dynamics of the world. We treat our imagination the same way we treat our dreams, with a quick disregard and prejudice of its importance. And we miss out on the power of imagination and dreams in bringing solutions and deeper understandings to our lives. I can recall a time when I started working out. I was going to the gym and I was having a lot of muscle aches. It wasn't just regular soreness, it was pain that lasted for days. And while this was happening, I was actually reading a book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And in this book, the book highlights that the subconscious mind has access to knowledge beyond your own understanding. It said that whenever you had a problem, whether it had to do with healing your body or just finding wisdom within yourself, you can always ask the subconscious to help you. So what I did was I sat down, I got into a meditative state, and I tried this theory out. I asked my subconscious, why are my muscles aching so much? I sat there with the question in mind, and in my mind's eye, 2 letters appeared, MG. And I intuitively knew that this meant that I was lacking magnesium in my body. I got up, went straight to the computer, and looked up what exactly was the benefits of magnesium. I found that magnesium contributes to flexibility and helps to prevent injury by loosening tight muscles. Without enough magnesium, muscles can't properly relax, possibly causing cramps. Low magnesium can create a buildup of lactic acid, known to cause post-workout pain and tightness. So naturally, I started to put more magnesium into my diet through supplements and just food in general, and my muscle pains started to go away. I no longer was stressing out about aching muscles after my workouts. My unconscious literally gave me the answer. And so this was a perfect example of how the unconscious communicates to you through images and symbols, and that it holds knowledge and is an intelligence within itself. So when looking at the faculty that creates dreams, we understand that its purpose is to reveal, and it reveals things in its own language through images and symbols. We now recognize the autonomous force and its purpose, which leads us to the second revealing aspect of the unconscious, intelligence. Jung explains that dreams serve a compensatory function. The unconscious wants to create a balance between itself and the conscious mind. It pushes for psychological harmony. And so dreams come in to show whatever the unconscious deems important. So Carl Jung gave an example of the compensatory function in action. I will put the example on the screen so that you can pause it if you'd like to read it, but it was a little hard to understand as it seems to be written in Old English. So I'll explain exactly what the story was about. Basically, Jung had a patient who came in and was engaged to a girl of supposedly good family, and his patient developed some kind of anxiety around the time of his engagement because he would dream that his bride was involved in some scandalous stories. Jung didn't say exactly what the scandal the stories were about, but basically the dreams showed that the bride was not who the patient thought she was. After a while of seeing these repeated dreams, Jung told the patient to confront his wife about the implications of his unconscious, and he did. In doing so, he found out that his dreams were telling the truth. His bride really wasn't who he thought she was, and so it cured him of his neuroses, and he ended up leaving her. This little example shows that the unconscious is aware of things that the conscious mind is not. It serves to compensate for the lack of information that the conscious mind usually breeds. And as you start to pay more attention to your dreams, you will find that you will derive a lot more important information for your own life. The unconscious acts as an intelligence in the background, making judgments in terms of what information is valuable and important to the person's development, and passes this information on to the individual through its own metaphorical language, whether it be in dreams or imagination. There are times that the information the individual has passed on is information he had never thought of in his life, and this shows that there is a thinker within the thinker. And so the third aspect that highlights the existence of a higher dimensional being within us is the capacity to push a plan onto us for our own self-realization. Carl Jung said that when observing the long-term effect of dream work, one finds a phenomenon that cannot be seen from looking at one isolated dream. In a dream series, often running into the hundreds, the analyst would find that the dreams coalesced into a common goal, the individuation of the human being. The individuation process is a process of realization in which the person cuts himself off from the herd to develop into his true self. Furthermore, this is what Carl Jung had to say about dream analysis. The analytical procedure, especially when it includes a systematic dream analysis, is a process of quickened maturation. Dreams demonstrate that when they are listened to, they can be beneficial to the psychological development of the individual. By going inwards, one is able to mature much more quickly, and this could be due to the fact that dreams bring memories, insights, experiences, awaken dormant qualities in the personality, and reveal the unconscious element in relationships. Such a pattern of planning and contribution resembles the guidance of a higher dimensional being within us, one that has its own will, mind, and purpose. Well, not many of us are able to pin down exactly what the soul is, but one intuitively understands that if the soul exists, it would mean that it is a non-material version of us, one that is connected to the spiritual world and also to the material world. Looking at it this way, we can see that dreams prove the existence of such a being within us, in our unconscious, as the three aspects of the unconscious are seen quite clearly through observing dreams. The first aspect being autonomy. Dreams are produced by an autonomous force that does not always agree with the attitude of the conscious mind. The second aspect is intelligence. Dreams come from an intelligence that knows things the dreamer doesn't know, and judges things based on a different agenda than that of the conscious mind. And the third aspect being planning. Dreams show that there is a force within us pushing us towards self-realization. There was a belief in many indigenous cultures that those who were disconnected from their dreams were disconnected from their soul. Sharing last night's dreams were often a common thing to do in these cultures. They would talk about the visions they had, and everyone would chime in to figure out the dreams' meanings. There was a deep respect for this dimension of life, for they believed their soul spoke to them in dreams. But things are different now. Although we have advanced considerably in the outer world, with a larger number of technologies and science becoming a large part of our lives, we have strayed far away from our internal world. Mental health is becoming a largely discussed topic with the rise in neurotic disorders. We are more disconnected from ourselves and our own nature today than ever before. We put a heavy emphasis on the outside world, constantly being glued to our cell phones and rushing into our days the minute we wake up. We set no time aside for reflection and introspection. We used to have shamans and wise men to guide us through the world of the soul, through rituals and stories, but we do not have such a system anymore. We need a more modern system for connecting to ourselves, and we must now look towards psychology to do so. This is not a science that can be reduced to simple neuronal firings of the brain. No, nor would I like for this to be reduced to such a limited point of view. This is a science that pushes people to look for the science within art and the art within science. Because when I look at dreams, I understand that I am looking at the work of an artist from a different dimension. Dreams are the shadows of the movements of a different reality. Dreams are revealers of the soul. They flip your world upside down and allow for you to look within the mechanisms of the outer reality. The more we open up to our dreams, the more we open up to ourselves, because dreams come from ourselves and they're not tainted by societal standards and norms that usually govern our thinking. No, these are pure expressions of the self. They are pure expressions of your own unconscious. And when you start to work with the mysteries of the dream world, you start to work on the biggest mystery of all, you. And so if you want to keep exploring these deeper dimensions of yourself, you have to learn about the shadow. So that's why you should click on this video right here, and I'll see you guys on the next one, alright? Stay lucid, peace.